The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday morning show. Presented. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Cranack.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
No Chris Schmidt, no Mark Cranack this morning, as it's Elijah Herbel taking you through this Saturday morning edition of Hail Varsity Radio. Rather than a traditional show, it's only me in here this morning. Well, we're going to be going for a best of Hail Varsity Radio. So we had some good stuff we've accumulated over the past couple of months. Thought we'd give you a chance to listen to it again. So nice we had to give it to you twice. So we're going to start this one off with Jabba Chamberlain here from a couple weeks ago, as well as Kaz from earlier this week. And then coming up next hour, we'll have Warren G, an interview from back in 2016, as well as our interview with Ron Brown a couple weeks ago. And pulled one out of the vault for you, Zac Taylor, head coach of the Bengals. We talked to him back in 2019. We'll have that one coming to you in the second hour as well. But first, let's get you our interview from a couple weeks ago here with Jabba Chamberlain. We'll have Rick Kaczynski's interview from earlier this week coming to you later this hour, but here's Jabba.
Back into it, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Husker baseball on our mind. We welcome in All-American Husker standout Jabba Chamberlain and World Series champ. So, Jabba, you just kind of got to go kick it for game one, didn't you, with little deck time. I'm envious.
Yeah, it was nice. Had a little bit of high school baseball action, just waiting for the stuff to come out this morning. So I was talking to some parents about that, and then just got to I got to actually do a little workout with listening to the boys on the radio, and then finish up by just relaxing with my feet up. So not too bad of a start for a Friday. I really can't complain.
Well, I gotta go back to the legendary stories of bus rides. We know Nebraska had to take a bus down to Texas, 12 hours. Is there a bus horror story? And then a bus, man, I was on fire in the back playing cards story.
No, I think back then we didn't really play too many cards. It was kind of just a story time and just trying to get on the bus so you didn't get next to, like, Brandon Buckman, who was 6'6", and he sweat profusely. So I just sit next to him on the plane, so I never wanted to be next to him on the bus.
That's pretty good. Eddie, did you have pretty good accommodations in the minors on bus trips?
No, miserable. That trip to Texas, I remember I was fortunate enough I didn't spend too much time in the minor leagues, but I'll never forget. We had a 3-city trip from Akron to Altoona to Erie. And you're running in the parking lot, you're playing catch, you're not staying in a Holiday Inn Express, you're staying in just an Inn Express. They forgot the Holiday Inn in the minor leagues. So, the minor leagues is hopefully going to get better now with Major League Baseball taking care of it. But the minor league bus trips were not the most fun because they put you on. I think the longest one I had was 14 hours.
Ugh. Wow. I did Winnipeg. Hold on a minute. Fargo. And I think Schaumburg. I filled in for the Salt Dogs 100 years ago for Dolman and Baylor. And, so long and short, I had a minimal sip of, cup of coffee. But it was fun hanging out with Tim Johnson. That dude had a ton of stories.
I think the biggest thing, too, is just the stories that you tell from college to, when you get in the minor leagues. It's just the stories of, the dollar beer nights in Erie, Pennsylvania. You're not getting paid anything, so it's like you actually get to enjoy a night out. Or we had a story of we were in hard-hitting New Britain, and this girl came to a game, and she had Boom Pow from, the old cartoons, Batman and Robin. And so just, cool stories of, where was that at? And just, just the experiences. And I think some of the stuff you'll remember forever. I remember literally when we were in the World Series. I don't know if I was doing interviews or somebody was doing interviews, and we were just walking around as we're getting filmed doing interviews for our own teammates. So it's just stuff like that you'll remember more so than some of the outcomes of the game.
Well, the bonding experience, right? Jabba Chamberlain with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Huskers able to take game one here, Jabba, 2-0. And what'd you like about Cody Frank? He's been a relief guy, but he got the nod today. And man, was he big time over 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, just 2 walks. That's what Nebraska needs on the hill.
I mean, it was the first 2 innings, he put himself in some pressure. There was a weird situation in the second inning that I listened to it and I tried to figure out how it broke down. There was 3 different outcomes that happened in one play, and then the next pitch he gets a 6-4-3. So it's things like that where the momentum, and we talked about this before, it's eliminating pitches, and I mean, he was getting early count contact, and he wasn't going into extended counts. And for somebody coming in that I felt like probably the 60 pitch mark was probably somewhere where it could be close to get 4 or 5 innings, but just the efficiency. And after, I think he retired 13 or 14 at one point, and he just, after the second inning, he really didn't have that many stressful innings. And as soon as somebody got on in the 7th, obviously that's the right move, but to see what he did and the momentum, and that's what a guy does, is he goes out and puts them on the back, and obviously you get a big swing for a 2-run homer, and then you just kind of get to take a deep breath and know the guys don't have to put so much pressure on themselves. And then to see what Emmett did coming in to finish, and just knowing what Cody had did on the front side, I think, like we talked about last week, that being contagious and seeing what he did, and he didn't want to go in and let the team down. So it was just awesome to see.
And for a guy like Frank, who's been a middle reliever his whole Nebraska career, what's that change in mentality that's needed to go from being a guy who pitches 2-3 innings in a spot to coming in and starting a game? And now, I mean, I think he went 6 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 6 2/3, punched out 10. And I mean, if you look at his old framework throughout the season, I think he's only given up 4 or 5 hits, and his numbers have been really, really good. So I think it's just the confidence, and it gives not only his teammates but the coaches a little bit more flexibility on, hey, what do we do here? Do we keep it rolling the dice, keep his momentum going, understanding what he can do? And obviously in game 2, hopefully, KP comes back and does the same thing and builds off the momentum of what Cody did. So I think it just gives another option. I think we talked about early in the season is these games, they play itself out, and then some guys step up and end up taking a different role. And I think we're starting to see that with what he did in the first couple weekends, and now to know you had to sit that whole week and know you're getting the ball to change the momentum of the course of your weekend, and to have a guy step up like that, it definitely shows you a lot, not only from the pitching aspect of it, but from the mentality of, hey, I got a chance to go do something special. Let's get this started right, and let's forget about last weekend and get going. And I think he did an unbelievable job of that.
Jabba, for the other starters, what does that do to your mentality to see the fact that you've been struggling to open the season, and then a guy comes in and throws really a gem of a game to open his series? What does that do for your mentality? Does that put some worry under you? Does that light a fire under you? I guess anyone can take it how they want, but just what does that do to a pitcher? I
think it's you play that integral part of the game between yourselves. It's obviously we've seen what he can do. I haven't been the pitcher that I know I can be. And every pitcher is different. But you have to go out there and play that game and be like, you know what, I'm going to go match him pitch for pitch. I'm going to give the bullpen a break, let my guys on the offense score, keep them in the game. We've seen we had 0 errors, the plays that we made, the dive, and just the consistency of what we were doing, because Cody did a great job of keeping the defense involved. We didn't have 13 walks. We didn't have 5 hit-back hitters. We didn't have errors extending innings. But that all works together, and we've seen them happen. And then it comes to the offensive side, and they put together some better at-bats, and I just think from the starting pitcher side is go out and match that. I mean, and you can take it 2 ways, I got some competition, but why would you not want competition? You want guys to compete. You want guys to look at each other and be like, you know what, I'm going to go out and be just as good, if not better. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Just don't let your ego get in the way and work off each other, feed off each other, and ask questions. And then that's the only thing you can do.
Jabba Chamberlain with us a few minutes. Husker Baseball, Hail Varsity Radio. Jabba, you look at the lineup moving forward here. Bryce was leading off. Did a great job of getting on base, 2 for 4. Of course, Griff with his 2-run shot, the difference, and the offense. At what point do you think Nebraska settles on their 1 through 9? And conversely, I look at Northwestern State. Their staff had 8 strikeouts. Are you concerned about Nebraska's strikeout numbers at this point?
I don't think so. I think they put together better at bats. I think they're still going to come into their own, but I think just playing these non-conference against this competition and getting into Big Ten play, I think it'll all play itself out. There's been a array of different lineups, and I think with certain things, and after this weekend, I think we'll probably see a more consistent lineup per se. Mm-hmm. But I think it's feeling out the certain situations, and we've got 4 home runs, we've had a ton of punch outs, we've had better at bats, and I think it's just going to continue to play itself out on kind of what game offensively that Will and his staff want to put together 1 through 9. That's going to make us the most successful.
All right, take me to a moment where you're on the hill. You want to stay in. Rob comes out and is going to try and take that baseball from you. The PG version of the conversation.
Well, I don't know who was more PG, if it was me or Rob at that point. So Rob always had those good conversations with us when he came out. So in 98.7%, I can't say. And people that know Rob know that that's the way he wants to be and once he gets out of his pictures. But it was just he never felt like when he came out that he didn't believe in you.
Sure.
And no matter how he said it or which way he went about it, he always made you feel like you could get through the inning and keep going. And compete was always his thing, because he goes, some days you're not going to have your best stuff, but you can always go out there and compete and give me everything you got. So he never made it feel like, oh, I'm going to come get this, or he's going to try and feel you out to see if you want to stay in the game. Mm-hmm. And it always gave a boost of confidence when you'd see him come out, because he did it for the right reason, and it was either to slow the game down or be like, hey, let's figure this out. Let's get it going. We know we're better than this, and let's get into the gear. So I think that was the best thing for him, was just the look that he had, and you didn't know which way he was going to go, but at the end of it, you knew he cared, and he believed in you to get out of the inning.
So total poker face on the hill with you, or could you kind of tell just based on facial expression, like what was going to happen? The tone.
You could tell a little bit. It was more so his walk than his face. So he just kind of has that walk where it's like, okay, he's moving a little bit faster. So he's a little upset. He's going to get his point across, and sometimes those were a little shorter than the ones where it's just kind of slowing the game down, just getting extended count and stuff like that. It was where you weren't executing, and it just was a stupid pitch selection, and so that had a little bit of hip swagger as he stepped over that line for sure.
Jabba Chamberlain with us, Hail Varsity Radio.
Jabba, before we get you out of here, I want to get your take on something that's been going around social media. We've seen a lot of high school kids early in the season doing some crazy bat flips. There was one I saw yesterday, this kid, I think it was like a third inning, he hit a bomb, threw his bat probably 45 feet in the air before running around the bases, and I can't remember which MLB player it was. He said...
Ben McDonald?
Oh, I can't... It was one of the MLB players said that kid wouldn't get to second base if I was out there. So I just wanted to get your take. As a pitcher, what's your take on all the bat flips we're seeing in baseball nowadays?
You know what? I look at it like two ways, because when I first got to the big leagues and I was fist pumping, it was nobody was like, oh my gosh, stop the presses. Like, that doesn't happen. Nobody does this. And I got scolded for it. I mean, I literally had to do interviews. I had to sit down with meetings and like, hey, that's not how we do things. And I'm like, that's just who I am. And honestly, there's a certain aspect of it that I think can be taken too far. But my thing is, if you don't like it, play better. Make a better pitch. I'd like there's a line between, like, I saw a kid, Ben McDonald tweeted it today, where the kid literally, the whole team came out to the line almost, and he almost got to first base and then flipped his bat. Like,
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah. That was Ben McDonald, yeah. And so I think there's a line because the gamesmanship needs to be fun. Like, baseball has an aspect, especially right now, and I think college baseball is going to do a tremendous job of keeping baseball relevant and live. And, I mean, we're seeing what Tommy White's doing at NC State with 9 homers through 9 games. And it's just getting everybody talking about the good things of baseball. But I also think there's a thin line. Like, if you want a bat flip, get 2 steps out of the box and throw it to the stands. I don't care. I should have made a better pitch. But if your whole team and whole other stuff is going to come out and you're going to wait till first base to throw your bat in the air, then there's a little bit of, like, hey, respect the game a little bit more. Like, have fun. Like, enjoy it. You did your job. But understand that there's been a lot of people before you that have done it better than you, and respect that a little bit.
Jabba, while we're on the topic, I saw a different video of a pitcher. He got taken deep to left, and he came and gave the batter a high five as he was walking towards home for hitting it so far. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, whoa.
I didn't see that one. Where did you see this one at?
I think I saw it on Twitter a couple days ago.
Oh, I missed that one. I saw one when Tommy White and the dude walked, like, literally just to see how far it went. But I didn't see the high five one. I'll have to go look for that one. But maybe after the game. I don't necessarily know in the game if that's something I do. I mean, after the game, I for sure would be like, wow, that was pretty impressive. I mean, still to this day, my first home run was to Mike Lowell, and I'll see him out still to this day and be like, yeah, I think your ball's still going. So, but we'll wait till after the game to talk about it. I don't necessarily know walking towards him and getting the ball from the home plate umpire and giving him a high five is probably what your teammates want to see either.
There's no way, dude. That's a code red in the locker room. You can't high five the opponent during a game.
I mean, this is a Little League World Series where they're going around and you're playing teams from different countries and stuff like that. So, yeah, that one on both sides of it, I think there's, like I said, that common ground. And the respect factor, 100%, I get it. Like, that's fantastic. But there's a time and a place, and probably not as he's crossing home plate or before he gets there is probably the best time.
Last thought on the home run topic. Who had the worst reputation when you played for admiring? Like, who would crank one and then just stand and watch too long?
Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, it just progressively, as my career went on, it became more prevalent. It really wasn't talked about the first few years that I played. And then it came in, I mean, obviously one of the most memorable ones that I probably talked about is Jose Bautista in the playoffs.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's kind of the biggest one that made it like, I mean, if you go back old school, they were still bat flipping. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just different. Like, it wasn't a topic of conversation. I mean, Ricky Henderson would pimp walks.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, in the game, in the aspect of that, there's always been gamesmanship. I just don't think Brett Boone, every time he hit a homer and he just flipped his bat, like, that's a bat flip in today's standards, but nobody said anything to Booney back then because it wasn't a topic of conversation. I just think the more it's talked about, the more people realize it. If you go back and watch highlights, every single dude bat flip. Prince Fielder, he takes gangster hacks and just throws his bat. and you just didn't think about it, and the more that it's brought up, it happens all the time. It wasn't the focus of conversation back then.
No, the pimp walk by Ricky. I mean, Ricky'd like grab his chain, grab his right above the kind of your pocket square. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Ricky was funny. I loved watching Dawson just with that kind of the stance he had, where the left leg was in front of the right a little bit. You know, the stance, and Andre'd go down and smoke one, and that was always pretty good. You know, there's just major mashers the last 25 years of baseball, but Ricky's still the king. I mean, the pimp walk is forever.
Oh, I mean, that's just swag that will never go away. I mean, he still has it to this day. So it's something that you're born with in his case. So it was always fun. But like I said, if you go back and look, it's happened a long time. I think it's just more prevalent now, and I think the younger generation has grown up with it, and that's why we're seeing it more. Like, I don't mind a good bat flip, but all the way to first base and then toss your bat, like, yeah, I mean, and then they'll get in the argument of, well, what are you going to hit him for? And then that's a whole other thing. And I mean, we could talk about this for days.
Yeah, we'll do another episode of when it's time to bat somebody.
Right.
Oh, Cal Ripken Jr.'s coming up. They just bat flipped me. Let me plunk an icon.
Yeah, let's see how that goes over well for you. Then you'll be getting beat up by your own team.
Possibly. Jabba, enjoy the weekend. Thanks for talking some Husker baseball and some MLB with us, bud.
Sounds good, guys. Appreciate it.
That's it.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Let's say hi to Rick Kaczynski. A Tuesday with Kaz, coach of Nebraska and Iowa, of course. Kaz, what do you know?
Not much, brother. Just finally settling into some good, consistent weather, but just, same as usual, man. Just work, man. That's about it, brother. How about yourself?
Well, getting ready for a little roadie down to Arizona, so that's on my mind. But a lot of NFL news to get to. But NCAA tournament tips off the play-in game. So, were you a big Hoosiers guy growing up, Indiana?
Yeah. Obviously, basketball, different game, different time back then. You look at the '80s and in the Big East, and Kansas, and just all the blue bloods. But big hoop fan growing up. But you asked me what my favorite team was. Probably Indiana growing up, and obviously a lot of respect for Coach Knight and what he did, and then just the obviously with Hoosiers and Indiana basketball and in the state. I think up until '94. In the tournament there, it was like bracket play. It was everybody was in. They didn't have classifications, I think, until '94. So I was at Notre Dame when that was still going on. So that was really cool. But yeah, man. So yeah, I grew up a Hoosier fan for sure. So but once again, just like college football, I guess you could say, I grew up a Penn State fan, but I just like the game. Same thing with college basketball. Pulled for Indiana, but just a lot of teams I enjoyed watching. But man, you go back to '84, '85, '86, that era. St. John, Syracuse, Georgetown.
Yay or nay on the Hoyas? Were you a big Ewing guy?
Oh, I hated Georgetown. hated Georgetown. I don't know. I mean, but I did like Sleepy Floyd. So certain guys I liked, obviously respected Ewing. But in the Big East was a big fan of the Cuse, and then DePaul. I think everybody, when they first got cable, you had WGN, and and then there was a lot of guys. DePaul was recruiting out of DeMatha, and back in Erie, there was a DeMatha used to play in the McDonald's Classic Big Four team tournament. So being third, fourth grade, watching those guys, and then you're watching them. I think Dallas Comagese, and obviously Mark Cummings. I mean, they just. Just player after player. I think DePaul had some sick unis too, like their unis. But Villanova, '85. But I mean, I was a gym rat, man. This was just like sports. So, but to be honest with you now, I hope Indiana. I know about Indiana right now. I saw Iowa, win that game off the bank, and then kind of took it to Purdue a little bit, but. I was a little shocked. I thought Purdue was going to be the team to beat in the Big Ten this year. But, yeah, I know about as much as I read, which is about 3 paragraphs a year on college hoops.
Well, you'll fill the bracket out, and you'll have as good a shot as me, man, or anybody filling out the bracket. Kaz, couple of your guys inking free agent deals today. Malik Collins going to play for Lovey and stay with the Texans. 2 years, $17 million for Malik, 8.5 guaranteed. And then the comeback story of Randy Gregory, a bit of a plot twist here, as Dallas offered, and there was an initial agreement with Randy to Dallas. 5 years, $70 million, $28 million guaranteed for Randy. I think that was between Jerry and Randy. And then Steven came in and wanted to change the language of the contract as Denver's on hold. Well, Randy's headed to Denver for maybe around that same number for years and guaranteed money, maybe a little bit more. But response, couple of thoughts from you on both of your guys as they get a second and third contract.
Yeah, I mean, that's, once you get to the league, that's what you're playing for. It's most of the, you get that second contract. And what Malik did, talking about him first, Malik bet on himself. He had that 1 year out in Vegas and, kind of hedged himself and then took a little less money and, bet on himself to perform, and it worked out for him. And I think I think he's comfortable there. It's moving to another city, moving your family, doing all that. So I think he's in a good spot. He's in a good system, and he knows the lay of the land there. But obviously proud of him, and I know Malik. I know he's got a couple cars, but that's about it, man. He lives very modestly. He won't have to work the rest. He will, but he won't have to work the rest of his life. He's been very conservative, but obviously proud of him. And once again, just a great story. A kid whose father unfortunately had died when I think Malik was 5, and raised by a single mom in a community, and then wrestling career, had people take him under his wing, and obviously the career he had at Nebraska, and he did the same thing. He got out. If he would have stayed, and him and I talked about it, I guarantee you, I'd hedge myself too. If I had a chance to coach him 4 years, he would have been a top 15 pick, no doubt. But he left a year early under that regime, and dropped a little bit in the draft. But once again, he hedged on himself back then. So obviously proud of him, and great for him, great for his family. Dude's a great kid, great family guy, great husband. So and great father, man. So just extremely proud of him. And same thing for Randy. It's well documented. I mean, who would have taken the chance, on Randy Gregory if you'd have said 4 years ago if he'd still be playing or in the NFL? I don't think a lot of people would have taken that bet. Got to give a lot of credit to the organization, Jerry Jones. I know a lot of people don't like him, but Randy, that team looked out for Randy. Jerry looked out for Randy, and that's why he's still playing in the league and going to get paid. So. Just freak athlete. He'll probably looking for a little bit more guaranteed money, which he'll absolutely get. But yeah, man, proud of those guys, and both of them come from a little bit different background, but both faced many different obstacles, man, and both are successful and because of the people that they've had in their lives. So. Not only a credit to them, but a credit to the people that helped them along. But I think also, too, Schmidt, it goes back to, not taking for granted how good we recruited and the type of players we had when we were there. I don't think there's been many Big Ten defensive linemen. I know a lot of people just throw that around. I've heard that, the guys in Omaha, World Herald, talk about a D lineman the last 2 years about this great player. Anyway, he was a solid player, but, all Big Ten, NFL, what these guys do is not easy. When you were watching those two guys on the field at the same time, it's rare. It's going to take a while to get two guys like that ever again on the field at the same time at Nebraska. I hope people understand, and I hope they realize what they had the privilege of watching with those two guys. And those two guys really love Nebraska. I wouldn't be shocked if a guy like Malik, just with his personality, his persona, and his just how he operates. I'd be shocked. One, I guarantee he's probably going to coach, but if he doesn't coach, he'd make a hell of an ambassador for the university. That's for sure. But proud of both of those guys, and it's great for him, man.
Rick Kaczynski's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Rick, that line you're talking about in 14 and in 13, Avery Moss, 5th round, Vincent Valentine. I think Vince was a 2nd-round guy to New England. Randy was a top 5 pick that fell, but got swooped up, and Dallas invested in. Randy Gregory tied for the league in forced turnovers last year. Randy's played 50 career games due to suspensions, but 16 and a half sacks. And then, of course, Malik's on a 3rd deal, and he's as good an interior as there is when we talk about just the job that's asked. And you're not always a stat guy on the interior, but he's a guy Lovey wanted to keep, right? And we know how good a Lovey is still revered from a defensive mind standpoint, and got another gig in the NFL. So that front 4 you had, really impressive. And those are guys that some you redshirted, some you didn't, but they played early, but it looks like you developed them. They were really talented too, but give yourself a little credit with the development. I mean, because they were a terror to watch. They were a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything else, man. It's easy to develop talented players, but I think when also, with the exception of Avery, when you look at those guys, they're all Midwest guys, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're all in our footprint, and I think that's a big part of it, man. The further away you go from home, your footprint, you know less and less about a guy. And the more and more a coach will sell you a bill of goods, and I'm not saying that happens a lot, but it does happen. Mm-hmm. And there's just something about a kid in those type of footprints. And I know there are not many steel mills left in Pennsylvania, but there's still a steel mill mentality in a lot of those towns, and that's where Penn State recruits. Same thing in Ohio. Just that blue collar mentality, and that's the same thing with schools in the Midwest, with the Iowas, the Michigan States, the Nebraskas. I mean, those are the type of kids that you want. You look at the Davis twins. I mean, Schmidt. If we're there in 15, you got in 16. In 16, Collins would have been back. I mean, you had Collins, the Davis twins. Randy would have surely been gone. If Avery was still around, and that was unfortunate what happened to him. But Avery was a freak. I mean, you look at that play he made against Northwestern in 13. Yeah. I mean, that it turned the game, kind of turned the season for us, and that was just freaky athletic, and he was one of probably top 5 talented guys. And then Vincent, part of recruiting is luck, but also too, man, there's a lot of guys that didn't play in the NFL that were really good players. I mean, Jason Ankra, Kevin Maurice, Kevin Williams, and that kid from Omaha, that'll always be a mystery to me.
Deshaun Neal,
be a mystery. That I would have loved to coach that kid. I'm just, like I said, and they call me arrogant, cocky, or whatever. There's absolutely no way that kid wouldn't have been a starter for me. Absolutely no way. Absolutely no way. I remember calling Greg Madison on him. Actually, Greg called me when Greg was at Michigan in Michigan offer. I remember Michigan going in the house. I was going to take a job as an analyst at Michigan, and Greg called me, and shoot, they were taking him. They wanted him. Nebraska ended up getting him, but Michigan wanted him. That kid was a great player. Mick Stoltenberg.
Yeah.
I mean, we had guys. There was plenty there. There was plenty there to win more games than they did, man. And that's what they got to get back to, man. Get back to that footprint. Obviously you got to develop guys, but you also, you also got to get guys that can bend in the knees, hips, and ankles, man. You know, get rid of these guys. Don't bring me any big belly guys. You know, I mean, you can't win with big belly guys. I promise you. So you know, but those guys are right in your backyard, and if they want to get back to playing for something in November and playing in something in December and January, you know, you ain't got to go far, man. It's right in your backyard. You just got to identify them.
Rick Kaczynski's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Kaz, how did you connect with Malik and his personality? How did you connect with Randy? What was your relationship like with each guy?
Well, I knew Randy, both different kids, man. You know, and ironically, they were Randy, obviously a junior college kid, but Malik and Randy were roommates in 2013. And that was probably great for both of them. Two guys from both different ends of the spectrum, inner city, Kansas City, and then Randy's from Fishers, Indiana, and then his folks lived in Macomb, Michigan, and it just completely did. And that's the great thing about football, man. You know, you got two guys completely different backgrounds living together and learning about each other, that playing together and now successful. But Malik was a guy, really young guy. And when you're coaching long enough, you know, when you're watching tape, you're always comparing guys to what you coached. And when I put Malik on tape, just his explosiveness, you know, his knee bend and playing low to the ground and his ankles and his hips. And I'm like, man, this dude's a waist down player and he's a 3-down player. And he reminded me of not a high school Mike Daniels, but probably a sophomore at Iowa Mike Daniels. And, you know, and that's what I talk to you when you talk to these guys. This is how I see it. And then you could show them, you know, I could show them Mike on tape and say, hey man, see how this kid played? And let me tell you, he was way far behind than what you were. You know, Malik came in at 290. Mike Daniels came in at 230 pounds, was a high school tailback and nose guard, and wrestled at 225. And so, you know, and then you get to know the family, you just connect with a kid. And then obviously, when we were recruiting and people were taking shots, and like I told Malik, I said, Malik, you ever hear me say anything bad about any of these other places? No. I said, I ain't got to, brother. I said, they could tear me down. They could tear Nebraska down. I said, you know, in the meat, they're tearing themselves down. I said, I got nothing to say about those clowns. They're insignificant to me, you know. And I think Malik kind of liked that. He was a young kid, but he saw through BS, right? Mm-hmm. And he knew. And the thing that Bo did, the thing that I did, and most of our staff, we told you how you were going to be coached, right? And we told you how we were going to treat you, and we told you that we're always going to do the best for you, and that doesn't mean you're always going to like it, man. You know. And what I loved about Malik, man, we got after Malik, man. You know, like I told those guys always, there was no way in hell we were going to let a guy with that type of talent and opportunity to be average, man. And there was no way in hell we were going to let those guys be average. And if they practiced average, if they were average in the classroom, if they were average off the field, we got after it, man. You know, and those guys responded. And that's why they became great, and that's why they became successful. And then when they're done playing, they'll be successful also. But, you know, Randy was a guy, transitioned into Randy was a guy recruited at Iowa. Same thing, lanky, raw type of kid, but just freaky athletic. And, he didn't make it. He committed to Purdue. We were going to bring him on a visit to Iowa. And then we knew he wasn't going to make it, so we kind of backed off a little bit. And we stayed in touch. And I remember getting a highlight tape. There was a kid out at Arizona Western, nose guard, that ended up going to Alabama back in like 2010 or 11. I think his name was Jesse Williams, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And, so I knew the coach, actually, the coach out at Arizona Western was actually from Joliet, Illinois. So he was a Midwest guy. So he was always, staying in contact with the Big Ten schools and things of that nature. So he sent me the tape, and this was 2012, right when I got here, and obviously, we were losing Baker, we were losing Cam, we were losing some dudes, and Ankara was only 1 year left, and we needed an immediate need. We were going to lose Eric Martin. We needed an edge guy, and I'm like, all right, I'm getting an edge guy, and I called them, and we talked to the parents. They came out for the Michigan game. It was a night game. You beat Michigan on TV under the lights, being the environment, the stadium, and the W made my life pretty dang easy for recruiting Randy. And, everybody in the world offered him. And, he shut it down. He shut it down right after that, man. So and then Dennis and, those folks, Kim, Shell Pepper. I mean, if you want to talk about, I'm going to give a shout out and make sure people know this name, Kim Shell Pepper. Randy wouldn't have made it out of Lincoln, Nebraska with what this person did for him. I mean, you talking about an amazing woman. You want to do an interview on Randy Gregory, go talk to Kim Shell Pepper. I'd never seen a single individual help somebody care for a player more than Kim did. Absolutely amazing job what she did. So please give her a shout out. Make sure people know her name and then the job that she does for those players. So you want to recognize somebody on the 50-yard line for what they've done for Nebraska student athletes. Get old Kim out there. But just getting Randy through and then working with Randy, and then the weight room with Coach Dobson did. But obviously he's just freaky athletic, and then we got him on campus. And then when you have a talent like that, Schmidt, my job was to not screw him up. When you have Adrian Clayborns, when you have Randy Gregory's, you just tweak them, man. You don't overcoach them. You let them be athletes. You don't want to take a Randy Gregory and turn him into a 4'8", 4'9" defensive end. Hey, just do what you do, man. Hey, on your way there, do this. That right elbow tuck. Drop that shoulder. That inside leg past the hip. But teach them the scheme. That's why scheme's overrated. Scheme, anybody can learn. My wife can learn scheme, but she's not coming off the edge against Wisconsin making sacks. It's coaching guys, and part of coaching sometimes is not overcoaching. So when you got a guy like Randy, that's just kind of what you do, man. But yeah, every kid's story, every recruiting story, it's a little bit different, but great thing about football athletics, you got kids, colors, religion, creeds, backgrounds, you all come together. And man, where else in the world does that happen other than a lot of Saturdays in the fall on football fields, man? So that's what I miss. But that's the great thing about sports, especially football, man. So just great to see, but couldn't be more proud of both of those guys.
Kaz, you ever hoop up with Randy one-on-one?
Oh, nah, bro. I don't want to give my secrets away. You can't give them away. I
was wondering.
I got a nice J until I get guarded, brother. Now that I'm guarded, I step back. I just don't create the separation like I used to, and then I panic. You start D'ing me up, I panic a little bit. So lost my game a little bit, but absolutely not. I'll take Malik on the hoop court even today.
Good answer. Kaz, we'll do this again, but we'll catch up soon. Thanks for the time.
All right, brother. Thank you.
The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday Morning Show, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now roll tide.
And Mark Cranack.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
This Saturday morning edition, Best of Hail Varsity Radio rolls on. We just heard from Jabba Chamberlain and Rick Kaczynski back in Hour 1. This hour, we got Warren G., our interview with Warren G. from back in 2016 coming your way, as well as our interview with Ron Brown. But first, our interview from back in 2019 with Bengals head coach Zac Taylor.
Back to it, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Blackshirt Husker NFLer. We say hi to the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, Zac Taylor. Zac, how's that sound?
That sounds great, guys. I appreciate y'all having me on.
It's been great to watch you, man. We're so happy for you with your success in coaching and excited for you in Cincinnati. Want to start with, I guess, the process as much as you can or would like to share about the rise up, the grinding you've done, and then the opportunity that presented itself in Cincinnati.
Well, I've had the opportunity in my coaching career to be around some really good people, and I've taken what I've learned really from all those guys, and I've had a lot of great mentors that have taken it upon themselves to help me throughout my career. And then that really culminated in these last 2 years, getting a chance to be in L.A. with Sean McVay. And I know I've talked to you guys about him before, but just the culture that he created and the ability for him to get the most out of his coaches and players really has helped me these last couple of years and put me in a position to be the head coach of the Bengals.
Zach, I've talked to you endless times here in the last couple of years about the opportunities, but I mean, obviously your rise up is duly noted. But I want to go back, and I did Tom Chattel with Omaha World Herald interviewed me, I think around the Super Bowl, asked me a few questions about you, and I brought up this one always sticks out to me, and we go back to our roommate days and our playing days at Nebraska, and it was after the Big 12 championship game we played Oklahoma. And I think you did a recent article around here, and you noted that game as well, and you remember it, by play. But I remember when we got back to the room after we bussed back from Kansas City back to our house, and we kind of were sitting up there talking about the game, and you said, I had no idea what Oklahoma was doing. That always stood up in my head. You're like, you would drop back in the pocket, and you'd look, you say, oh, they're in this coverage, but soon you drop back. They'd be in this coverage, and you're just kind of perplexed about the whole game. And in that article, you said you were just puzzled. That game still sticks out every throw, every play, and then you use that now with your quarterbacks and with the future quarterbacks. Kind of talk us through that scenario there.
Yeah, like I said, I remember that game very well, and I do remember it was almost like from a quarterback perspective that they were coaching their defense from a quarterback. It was almost like they had another quarterback over there. Hey, these are the things that would really screw a guy up. And so they did a really good job for years there. Venables, who's now at Clemson, I think the world of him, and he's a great coach, and they create a lot of problems. And, I still to this day, like you mentioned, I do coach some of these things with our quarterbacks now with, my fundamentals got sloppy in that game sometimes, and some throws that appeared easy, and you get real sloppy fundamentally, and you make a lazy throw and it gets picked. I can remember the 3 picks very specifically, why I threw them and the reason for them being intercepted. I still got those DBs' names pinned on my wall, kind of like the Billy Madison his list he's got on there, Nick Harris, all those guys. But so those are lessons that I learned, that mistakes I made, that I want to make sure that the guys I coach don't make the same mistakes. Never get lazy in a game. Treat every throw like you're going to win the Super Bowl, and make sure that you're fundamentally sound and doing things like we always drill them. And so, if they can learn from some of those examples, some of those poor examples that I had, then as long as it helps us win, then I'm all for it.
It helped Zach too. I'm going to get punched here in a minute. If you had had any defense that game.
Oh, that's a lie.
If I remember correctly, it was like 7-7 in the fourth quarter.
No, I know it was. I know.
Oh man,
don't go there.
Yeah.
Zac Taylor's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Zach, touch on the ability to connect at the different levels you've been at A&M, also when you were in Miami, also with Los Angeles, and now with what you have in Cincinnati, specifically the quarterback spot. I know you're head coach now, but everywhere you've been, you've gotten really good quarterback play, and I think that's a tribute to you and the staff that you've been a part of. I know you're a team guy, but what's it like for you to be able to figure out a guy's personality and then help him thrive?
Yeah, I try from my perspective, I just try to be consistent every day, so they know what they're going to get from me. And most of the quarterbacks have very similar personalities. They're hardworking, they're driven, they're smart. That's why they start in the NFL. So at this level, that part of it is easy. You're getting a very similar person no matter where you coach. It's just a matter of me being consistent, me understanding. Sometimes I'm going to coach some things a certain way, and these quarterbacks I've had say that's not helping me. That's not how I see it. And so you've got to be able to modify and adapt and find the ways that help them. And so in this league, more than anything, there's clear, open, and honest communication, back and forth with these quarterbacks. And they're as smart as coaches or smarter than coaches oftentimes. So it can't just be my way or the highway. There's got to be a middle ground there where you find the ways that they learn best and that help them absorb the film the best. And so I just think I've found a good middle ground with all the quarterbacks that I've coached in this league. And we've always worked well together. And, if that makes them have a good season, then so be it. But I just feel like we've always had a good relationship. I've been able to be hard on them, and I've been brutally honest with them every step of the way.
Zach, you're trying to fill out your coaching staff, and you're going through that process. What boxes need to be checked when you're filling out your staff? What kind of attributes and traits do they need to have to be, I want this guy to be a part of my coaching staff? Yeah,
guys who are good communicators. They're all about the culture that we're trying to build. They don't have they don't have an ego about themselves. They don't have an alternate agenda. We're just all about finding the right people. And the number one thing we'll preach in this organization is communication. That's with me and ownership. That's with me and the coaching staff. That's with the coaches and the players and players. Everyone's got to be on the same page at all times. And it's when that communication gets disjointed, I think, is when some organizations find some trouble. So that's the first step. I want these coaches on the staff to all fall in that category of great communicators. And, whatever the coordinators ask them to do, that's the way they're going to teach in those meeting rooms. And we're going to have that trust there. And so far we've been able to follow that to a T with the guys we've hired. We've hired a great staff. We got a couple more to go. But right now I think that we've got a really good staff that's all on the same page.
Zac Taylor's with us, head coach, Cincinnati Bengals, Hail Varsity Radio. A few more minutes. Jay Moore, Chris Schmidt. When it comes to culture, and it's a big buzzword that is used, and it's so important. You guys live it every day, playing and performing at the college and pro level, and now as a coach. Can you kind of lay out, yes, you mentioned communication. What are some other parts of the Zac Taylor culture that folks can see?
We'll really spend a lot of time stressing their football character, their coachability, their dependability. We want to make sure that the standards we have for every player are the same, whether it's in a meeting, a walkthrough, the game reps. We're going to hold our best players to the highest standard and the guys on the bottom of the roster to that exact same standard. And, so guys will do anything you can if they know that you can help them get better. And so that's what we'll focus on every single day, is having high standards for our guys, being clear communicators. The 2-team rules we'll have are be on time and protect the team. That's it. It doesn't get the list doesn't need to be much longer than that. Those are the 2 things that we'll follow. They'll see every day when they walk in this building. But we just want to create a bunch of positive energy. We're going to hold guys accountable when they're making mistakes, but at the same time, when they do things the right way, we'll make sure we praise them in front of their teammates and try to get the most out of them that way. So I'm excited. I think that these guys are excited. They're hungry. We got a good group of players that are just ready to get to work.
Zach, now you're a guy that is able to call the shots. Coaches and players in football, and you've been around the game so long. It's always been done a certain way. Kind of coaches and players become creatures of habit. Things are kind of practices are ran the same way. Kind of days are run the same way. What is your day? Are you going to tweak things? Kind of against that structure that a normal player and a coach goes through? Are you going to try to do anything different that you've learned, whether you're at A&M, whether you're at Miami, whether you're at the University of Cincinnati, or where you've been, whether you've been at LA, to try to just try to tweak it a little bit to benefit the players and your staff?
Well, it's important that our guys are healthy on Sundays. That's the number one thing. So our schedule will always be based around how hard can we push our players and when do we need to pull back. And sports science plays in that. The strength coaches, the trainers, they all play into that. But we want to make sure that we're not just beating them to the ground 7 days in a row in training camp. We're going to make sure that, when their bodies are telling us we need to pull back and make sure they get a day of rest so that we can push them harder the next 2 days following that day of rest. That's what we're going to do. So, in LA, the last 2 years, 21 of our 22 starters were healthy. The first game of the season that played the first game of the season started the playoff game. 21 to 22 starters. So we obviously did a good job there of keeping our guys healthy, keeping them fresh so that they could help us in those playoff runs those last 2 years. And so that philosophy has really helped us out there and is going to help us here in Cincinnati.
How excited are you to work with Andy Dalton? And from an offensive look, what's the scheme going to be?
Well, first of all, with Andy, I'm really excited to work with Andy. I think he's a smart player who's always done it the right way, accurate, gets the ball out on time, gets it out quick. He's a good teammate. He's a good leader. So those are all great starting points for quarterback. And I haven't gotten a chance to work with him yet, but those are all the characteristics that you're looking for when you got a guy. So excited to work with him. And then, the starting point for this offense, I believe in what we did these last 2 years in L.A. I hired a bunch of guys who did not coach in L.A. that have other influences. Alex Van Pelt has been in a lot of different systems. Bob McNeil, a lot of different systems. Brian Callahan, Jamal Singleton came from the Raiders, and Brian's been in Denver when Peyton Manning was there, and they won a lot of games there. So I wanted to bring in a lot of guys who had a lot of different backgrounds that can help influence and help this offense progress over these next couple of years. And so it's an exciting staff that we've put together so far.
What were you able to take and learn from the playoff run and then getting to the Super Bowl? I know it's not the result that you wanted, but it's still an achievement to get to that pinnacle. What did you take away from this season?
Well, there's no secret formula. Our approach did not change from week 1 to it felt like week 40, week 23 when we played in the Super Bowl. That was a long season, but the approach never stayed, never strayed. The standards never changed. The way we walked through, the way we practiced, the level of detail was there every day we went about our practices. And so that was a credit to those players. It was a credit to the coaches for maintaining those standards. But everybody bought in. Everyone knew that was the right way to do it. We were going to get the most out of each other. And so there was total buy-in from the players, and they played for each other. They all knew that we could achieve something bigger than themselves if they all bought in and did it the right way. And so it was really a special year that I did take a lot from it.
Couple more minutes. Zac Taylor with us, Hail Varsity Radio, head coach of Cincinnati. I want to get your guys' perspective here because it's a flashpoint memory for a lot of Nebraska fans, and that's the A&M game where you guys captured the Big 12 North in 2006.
Yeah, in 2006. Yeah.
2006, and I remember watching that game. My little guy Carson had just been born, so he's in my right arm like a football, but I didn't fumble, thankfully. And we're watching that, and I see Mo go up on the fade pass from you, Zach. I know the defensive effort, Jay, that the Black Shirts had that Saturday. Zach, start with you, and then Jay, I want you to follow just from the defensive perspective. But can you remember, or do you think much of that drive? I'm not saying Al Bundy here live in the past, but it's a moment that Nebraska fans still associate with a lot of joy, and what a job you guys did executing to eking that one out down in A&M.
I don't spend as much time now thinking about it. I think my wife showed my son, my oldest 8-year-old son, a video of it not too recently because he found in his closet a Nebraska jersey that I don't know who bought for him years and years ago. It was a 13 Nebraska jersey for my son. And he found it in his closet, and he wanted to wear it to school for Jersey Day. And so then my wife showed a video of the end of the Texas A&M game, and so that was the first moment he realized, Dad, you played? You played football? And so that was neat for me. That was I probably hadn't really thought about it in years until that day. So that's the cool part about being a dad, as we all know. But what I do think back as you asked me that question is just how all three phases really came together because let's not forget, I threw a pick on a dagger route to whoever that might climb. I forget his name, but Mark Dodge, I think was his name, picked me off in the fourth quarter, and the game should have been over. They really blew it. Jay, the defense got Jaworski laying out of bounds a couple times, so we preserved the clock, and then we went so we got a huge stop. We blocked a field goal, and then that gave us an opportunity to go down and win it on offense, when in reality the game should have been over because of the pick we threw. And so as a coach, I look at all three phases really came together to bail out the offense when the quarterback made a mistake and the defense and special teams stepped up and didn't panic, got it together, and then we got a chance to go down there and make some plays to win the game. So from a coaching standpoint, that's what I look at. It was a total team effort to go win a championship, and that's what it takes if you're going to win a big game like that.
That game, we sealed the Big 12 North after we won that game, but we got off to a hot start. But just like in college football, in any sport in general, it's such a roller coaster, and we got off to a really good start. and I believe we kind of had a bad habit of coming out after halftime kind of flat. I think we were up a couple touchdowns at half, and then kind of fell flat a little bit in the third quarter. Then battled back. We got the stop. I mean, blocking that field goal was huge. That flipped the momentum right there, and then Zach and able to hit some big throws. I remember Dan Erickson making a couple big catches down the sidelines, and it's just like, holy smokes, we're going to do this. Because we had a couple chances. I think we blew a chance. I don't know if it was a week before, or a couple weeks before, in Oklahoma State to steal the North. We had an opportunity, and again came out flat again the second half and didn't get the job done. But that's one game that definitely, when you're able to seal your half the conference and play for a championship. Then the way we were able to do it was Zach Tamoe in the end zone there. Then the defense to seal it off. I mean, because they could have got a couple. They still had a chance to win. I think they had 20 seconds left into the game, but defense was able to seal it off. So that's one of my fondest memories of our senior year.
Zach, thanks so much for the time today. Appreciate you joining us, and congrats on your success.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome in, tremendous artist, talent, Warren G. with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Warren, we were just talking about you. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm chilling, man. Out here on this road, man, just hitting these cities and doing great shows, man, and having a good time.
No, I bet. And I tell you what, Lincoln is excited that you're coming to town. And what are folks going to be in for tomorrow night?
A great show, man. A great show. I'm going to give you some of the classics, some of the up-to-date stuff, and then just, man, it's gonna be fun. Just a lot of good music, man.
No, I bet it's gonna bring back, folks know you, folks remember you.
Yeah.
And just personally, my bro's coming to town, so we're going to this, and
it's all good.
Yeah, but he throwing in. Regulate, doing his paper route. That's what we grew up on. So it's going to be so cool to see you.
Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed, man.
So,
yes, indeed.
Warren G's with us here. Warren, we won't keep you too long, man. I know it's a grind for you. You're hitting so many cities, and thanks again for giving us a few minutes. Take me through just your life in music here for a couple of minutes. Humor me with just how you got to where you are now. I mean, take us back to you and Snoop and Nate Dogg, man, all kind of hanging out and then blowing up.
Well, we just used to just, strive real hard to try to get noticed. A lot of people think, just because I'm related to Dre, that it's supposed to come on a silver spoon, and that wasn't the case. We was out grinding real hard and getting our names known all over the city. And we did some songs that got out and around town, like that was around, that hit all the different cities, and I just happened to pop a tape in one day, and Dre was around, and he heard it, and he was like, "Who was this?" I was like, "That's me and Snoop and Nate. And I was trying to tell you about our music," and he heard it, and he liked it, and he was just like, "I want you guys to come to the studio on Monday," and from it's been on ever since,
No, I hear you. And that's a stepbrother, correct? Dr. Dre's your stepbrother?
Yeah.
Right. And that's, so with that relationship,
we've been together. We've been together all our life.
Okay. Yeah, well,
so we brothers. It don't step, half, whatever. It's all.
Your brothers. I get it. Now, my question with you, were you nervous to bring your music to him, or did he not want to mess with you on, because he'd been doing NWA and his own thing for a little while. Was there not an opportunity until there was an opportunity for you to kind of present?
It was on a humbug. Like I said, I was around him. It wasn't even about no music. I was just around him, and the event that we was at, I played the music. They didn't have no more music. It was actually a bachelor party, and I popped the tape in. He heard it, and he was like, "Cool." And when we got to the studio on Monday, that's where it all happened. It all changed from there. He told us to come and stay with him and get out of this, the neighborhood, so we don't get caught up in no trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's just been on ever since, you know.
Warren G is with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Bourbon Theater. Get your tickets. If you don't have them already, 10 o'clock show tomorrow night. Now, Warren, I got to ask you here. Nebraska's wide receivers coach, Keith Williams, the biggest Tupac fan there is. You knew Tupac real well. What was that like spending time with him?
Oh, it was cool, man. He was a good dude, man. Just really, really hard worker, fast and hard worker. And he just you know, the things he talked about was real life, and just, you know, some of the things he talked about came to life, you know, as far as just a lot of the things that we see today. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he was just a good dude, man, just a good dude, and just was humble, you know. And I'm just glad to be one of the guys that had a chance to work with him. And, you know, but he was a real good cat.
Warren, are you a big football fan?
Definitely.
You know? So who do you cheer for? Who do you like, either NFL or college?
NFL, I'm a Raider fan.
All right.
You know, I've been a Raider since Kenny King. Well, my dad turned me on to the Raiders way back then. Okay. And then I'm a high school fan too. I actually got a son that's they just labeled him a 5-star athlete out of California.
Tell me.
His name is Elijah Griffin, cornerback, wide receiver, athlete, man. He just a junior, and I really enjoy watching him do his thing. He got like about 11 or 12 offers so far.
That'll be great. That's so cool. Elijah Griffin, man. Tell you what.
Lockdown corner.
That's all right. No fly zone. If you get a few minutes, man, drive by that stadium in Nebraska. You'll love it.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I think Nebraska reached out to him, too.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. He was probably just here. He with Keyshawn and those guys. Yeah.
No, I promise you, the head coach reached out to him on his Twitter. I think, you know what? I can't not the head coach, but the DB coach.
Yeah. Warren.
I don't know.
Warren. Do you have like hang on, I got to get to break. You got 5 minutes? 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
Hang on, folks. Rap, hip-hop, loyalty. Warren G, Bourbon Theater, 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Can log on, warreng.com, get your tickets, 1450 O Street. You know where the Bourbon's at. It'll be incredible. Warren G's giving us some more kindness, a couple more minutes here before we say goodbye on a Friday. Warren, we're talking college football, man, and your son, Elijah Griffin, a lockdown corner, a wideout. Where does he go to school in Cali?
Yeah, Mission Viejo High School.
Okay.
And Mission Viejo, California.
All right.
Yes, yes.
No, that'll be good, man. A lot of talent out in Cali. Mission Viejo, well-known program, well-known well-known region. So, Warren, we're so excited you're going to be in Lincoln, and you're going to rock it at the Bourbon here Saturday night, 10 o'clock show. And what's one thing that you still want to do musically? I know it's kind of a broad question here, but as we say goodbye, I want to get back to music and your show. And you've done such an amazing work when it comes to producing, recording. I mean, you've done it all, but what's next for you to do?
Well, right now I'm working on my documentary. It's called the G-Funkumentary. Very, very. This is going to be just as big as the NWA movie, the way I see it. I mean, I got a ton of interesting people in it. I don't want to tell it all and spoil it, but it's definitely going to be a very, very, very great documentary. But it's called the G-Funkumentary, and it's just giving people the history on what G-Funk is and what it did for West Coast hip-hop and the hip-hop culture in general. And it's going to be great. And I'm going to do a soundtrack to it, which is going to be produced by me. I'm going to have a lot of great people on there. It's going to be my detox, you know. And then the movie is going to be good. The documentary. And I'm working on that, man, and just still producing, man, getting more into film and TV as far as scoring and doing music for commercials and stuff like that, and still producing hip hop, R&B, no matter what it is, and just giving these new artists and the older artists great music.
Well, Warren, it's an honor to have you in to Cornhusker State tomorrow night. Best to you. Look forward to a great show. We'll reach out to you again and talk some more high school ball, all right?
All right, man.
Take care of yourself. Warren G with us. Thank you.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Wrapping up our best of Hail Varsity Radio today, we heard from Kaz and Jabba Chamberlain back in Hour 1. This hour we've heard from Zac Taylor and Warren G. We're going to wrap it up with our interview with Ron Brown from just a couple weeks ago. This is good stuff. Ron Brown brought on the running back room, what the running back room could look like this season. This is a good one. This is where we'll leave you. Ron Brown joining us here on the best of Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Let's talk some Big Red football. And spring is just around the corner with the spring session for the team. We welcome in a longtime assistant for Nebraska football and senior offensive analyst Ron Brown. Coach Brown, it's been a little while. What's going on? How are you?
Good, Schmitty. How you doing, man? I'm not sure whether to hibernate or come out and enjoy the spring. So it just one day it's winter and the next day it's spring.
That's why we love Nebraska, right? On our toes.
Yeah. There you go, man.
So you weren't out there sprinting around with the rest of the team midweek, were you?
Well, I was out there. I was watching, but yeah, there were some cold days. We've also had some great weather, but. Anyhow, looking forward to spring ball and all the stuff that comes along with that.
Well, I want to go back to the end of the regular season for you as you transitioned to take over the running backs, and you also spent some time on the recruiting trail. What was that like for you?
Oh, I've done it for so many years, so it wasn't really that much of a transition. I think there are some changes in the recruiting process now, particularly with the transfer portal being so active. So, there's some of that. We had, of course, a little bit of an unusual situation with coaches gone before the season was over, and so a lot of questions had to be answered in regards to what kind of a program do we have, where are we going, et cetera. So, there were all those things, but Smitty, I feel like I've been here in college football for so long. I've kind of seen a lot of things. I feel like I've seen it all, and I know I haven't seen it all, but I feel like I've been through enough things that I can adapt to about any situation that needs to happen. So, I just went after it. Business as usual, but always excited. I love football. I love these kids. I thank the Lord for the opportunity to be serving in some capacity.
Ron Brown's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. You've seen a lot in your time. Did you ever anticipate anything like the portal happening?
I should have, because I could see a trend going that there was a loosening of the guard, so to speak. And what I mean by that, there was going to be more and more given to the athlete. Mm-hmm. There was going to be more latitude, more say that the athlete has, so forth and so on. And, you could just see that something was coming down the pipe that way. And I'm not sure we're done yet. You start to see NIL along with the more relaxed mandates on whether, who can transfer, when you can transfer, how often you can transfer, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it's almost like a free agency in the National Football League. It's just kind of like open season that way. So, yeah, I should have known it was coming. I was hoping that it wouldn't come to this degree personally, but it's here, and we're just all kind of meshing and adapting with it.
Well, Nebraska's adapted pretty well. You're going to lose some kids, unfortunately, but Nebraska, from a roster standpoint, Coach Brown really did well with the acquisitions in the portal. Some pretty, at least on paper, pretty key pieces that were additions.
Well, you made a big statement there, Schmitty, at least on paper. Because right now everything's on paper. You know, that the one thing that football has always brought out, and this is true of other sports and the business world and life in general, is that eventually, you know, it all has to translate into reality. And so what's on paper has to perform. What looks good in the front end, what does it look like at the back end or in the middle of the process? You know, sometimes people tend to rate recruiting classes and recruiters a certain way. They go, the best recruits have come to such and such a school. Well, you don't know for 2, 3, maybe 4 years how good your recruiting class is, and you don't know how good your recruiters are until after that time. It all looks good on the front end if you're looking at 5-star, 4-star, all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, we've got to play the games. And, you know, we've seen here at Nebraska over the years where we've broken those tendencies. In other words, even back in the 90s, we were 34th, 35th in the nation in recruiting and all of this, and yet we put a string of national championships together that was pretty unique. Well, how did that happen? Well, you know, those things that you were looking at on paper weren't always the best barometer to look at. And so I think being able to, hopefully we've done our homework and done as good a job as we can in the transfer portal. You've got to keep looking under the hood and when you're dealing with transfers, because you don't have very much time to recruit them, and so you have to learn about them fast. Hopefully we've done a great job of looking under the hood and that it's more than just what we see on paper with physical talent. And at the end of the day, it's all going to come out in the wash. You know what I'm saying, Smitty?
I hear you loud and clear. Ron Brown's with us. So you go back to some of those banner teams that had maybe not as highly rated recruiting classes. The one thing that Nebraska has always done at an exceptional level is, well, identify talent, but then also get the most out of the kid and develop that talent. That's the mesh that's got to happen. And has happened for a lot of years in Lincoln. And if you were to ballpark it, do you think you guys, when it was really rolling, nailed the kids, or was a big part of that also the development? Because I go back and NFL draft's around the corner. Elijah and I talk a lot about just the reload. You lose somebody to the NFL, just case in point, Wistrom, 6th pick overall. And then down the pike, here's Vandenbosch, 2nd-round pick. I mean, that wasn't just a nice 5 to 7 year run. That was two more guys in a succession of pretty high level difference makers on the defense.
Yeah, that you make a great point. Development. Coach Osborne always had a philosophy of not only development, but if you made a mistake, if it looked like you made a mistake in the first year and you look at this kid that was supposed to be a highly rated recruit and he doesn't look as good as we thought he was, Coach Osborne, as nice as he was, said, well, you better make it right, Coach. Whoever recruited him and whoever's going to coach this guy better make it right. In other words, let's pour into this young man and let's make him or help him to be the very best player he can be. And I think that was very important. The other thing that's really important, and I talked about looking under the hood, there's a Bible verse that says, man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks on the heart. And so many times we are measuring people off of tangibles, how big, how fast, the statistics, how big of a high school he played at, notoriety, all those kinds of things. But then we all see it all the time, these guys that come out of nowhere. We've seen it at Nebraska numerous times with our walk-on players here in the state. It's just been a remarkable process for me in the 35, nearly 40 years of college football now that I've been in, a remarkable process to see that Bible verse come true, looking at the heart, looking what's inside, looking what's under the hood of these players, and not just relying on the 4-star, 5-star, so forth. Like you said, I mean, the way I would put it is that the 2-star kid comes in here, and then he walks out the door as a 4-star or 5-star kid. And I think that proves true, Schmidt, also with the NFL stats. I think the average draft pick in the National Football League is like a kid that would have been a 2.3, 2.4 star-rated kid coming out of high school. That's remarkable. That's a little above walk-on status, barely scholarship status, and a kid has gone on to the National Football League. That tells you that there's a lot of development, especially in a sport like football, where mass and explosion and muscularity, lean muscle mass, and the changes of the body have to take place for most every single player. You've got to throw that into account, and a lot can happen in a 3 or 4 year period of time in a young man's life.
Coach, you've had a chance to see what's in the running back room. There's some new additions, of course, but that's an area of interest for a lot of Nebraska fans. Your thoughts with this running back room going into the spring?
Well, there's no question. First of all, Brian Applewhite coming in as our running back coach, I think has done an excellent job just getting some new, fresh thinking, the way he explains things. So that's been really good. And also, there's a core of running backs there that are very young. And so the continual, consistent training of these guys there's going to be improvement. I really believe there's going to be improvement simply because they are young guys still learning. It was a very young running back room. The key thing is being able to keep people here and consistently figuring this thing out. You can't give all these guys all the reps, because there's just too many. It's going to have to whittle down. Spring ball this year is going to be obviously a great indication of where we're going to be at. We're going to have to give these guys a lot of reps and see who emerges from the smoke. Gabe Irving is one guy that in spring ball won't get a chance to do a whole lot in spring ball, coming off of the knee surgery that he had after the Oklahoma game. But, of course, he was our starter last year, early in the season as a true freshman. And so, yet you see the leadership quality, you see how he's working. So in addition to him, we'll be able to see a lot of guys this spring work at it, and it'll all come out in the wash for us.
Couple more minutes. Ron Brown with us, Hail Varsity Radio, senior offensive analyst. Coach Brown, there are a number of backs. Ramir really ran hard last year. I look at a guy like Yant and how he finished up against Iowa was impressive. And, of course, Emmett Johnson. Emmett, we talked to him on signing day and really impressed with him. You got Anthony coming in from JUCO. So there's a number of kids, and I'm sure I've left a few out, but a lot of intrigue. But, yeah, there's one ball and a lot of backs that want to carry it.
Yeah, and that's always been the case. Around here, people remember, historically here, we've always had a good stable of backs. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've always had 3 or 4 NFL-type guys sitting in the room. And at times, guys had to wait their turn. Nowadays you can get away with 3 good backs. You look at Michigan, for example, they had 2 really good backs that kind of loaded it up. They were the Big Ten champion. They were the team that I think they led the conference in rushing, and those 2 backs took their guys to the national playoffs. But when I look at our backfield right now, I think when you look at a Yant, for example, and a Ramir, you get a difference in style that could complement one another. And then you got a guy like Gabe Irving, who's kind of a combination of the 2 of those guys. that we used to have that kind of situation here, and so we have the potential to do that. It'll be interesting to see how the guys develop, but we really ought to be pretty good at that position before it's all said and done. Provided that there's the obviously staying healthy, but also just taking on the right attitude. So I'm looking forward to this young group and seeing how they develop.
Ron Brown with us. Coach, final thought here. Mark Whipple in his offensive coordinator. You go back quite a few years with him. You know him from back east, and he was fun to get a chance to meet at the round table. Not long ago, but just the offense, the direction it's going, and then what the addition means with Coach Whipple.
Yeah, there's always a transition and learning new offenses and so forth, but I think it's been going really well. Whip's a bright guy. I played with him for 4 years in college, and he was our quarterback, and very bright guy, really scrappy, tough competitor, and that's how he coaches. He coaches the same way. He's kind of a maverick, He kind of lays it out there, and he's not all he's not this diplomatic. I mean, he's gonna let it loose. He's gonna shout out some things sometimes, and he's going to take chances. A risk taker for sure. He's always been that kind of guy as a player. I coached with him at Brown University years ago as well for 1 year, and I have great respect for Mark and his coaching ability, and so far so good. We've got some of the guys on our staff getting to know one another. Mickey Joseph, of course, is no stranger to us. Mickey's a very talented young guy with a lot of energy. And then Donovan Raiola. Donovan knows a lot about Nebraska football. He played at Wisconsin, but his brother, of course, Dom, played here. We recruited Donovan when he was a high school player out of Hawaii. So these guys all have are all adjusting. Some of them have familiarity with us, but they're all seeming to adapt. And Brian Applewhite as well as the running back coach.
Ron Brown with us. Coach, we'll see you down at spring ball. Thanks for a few minutes today.
You bet, Schmidt. Thanks for having me, buddy. God bless.
That'll do it for this best of edition of Hail Varsity Radio. We'll be back Monday to talk Nebraska's basketball's coaching staff changes and more. 4 o'clock Monday here on ESPN Lincoln.